Hello, welcome back. Thanks for tuning in again to another episode of Thinking Out Loud with me, Ian Currey. Have you ever lived somewhere that is famous for all the wrong reasons? Not far away from where we lived in England were three very famous places just like that. Come on, let me tell you what I think. Today I've been thinking about tidying up the train room so we can get the trains running again. It's been a long while, hasn't it? The trouble is, every time I go in there, there's so much fun stuff to see, and I get distracted. Today I sat on the floor for quite some time looking through stuff instead of putting it where it needs to be. It's not that the train room is particularly untidy, it's just that sometimes I need to get under the track to work on something, and so things get moved around, and I'm making excuses, aren't I? And sometimes I just don't push things back right away. One of the interesting things I have to do with the model railway is to sort out the signals for the trains. It's one of those things I probably should have done before I put things in the way, because it's going to be a complicated and messy job, I think. Signals are very important to any railway, even more important than traffic lights for cars. In a car, if someone misses a red light, it's very dangerous, but at least the road will still be there in front of you, and you might be able to steer around those cars coming the other way. With a train, often the track will be switched for another route, or a train will be sitting in the way, or worse yet, coming in the other direction. If the driver misses one of those signals, that's really serious. Missing a signal is known as a SPAD, a signal passed at danger. And many accidents around the world have been caused by drivers somehow not stopping for a signal that is set to danger. When we last lived in England, we lived very close to three places that were famous for all the wrong reasons. The first is Gretna. And there's a good blacksmith shop there in Gretna Green. And that's what's famous. It's very famous for young people running away to get married. Long ago, there was a law that somehow allowed people who were underage to get married and do it quickly. The age of consent was lower there, and unlike the rest of the country, you didn't need to live there for a period of time to be able to be married there. The danger signals were missing. Some very sad stories associated with this place go on into history, and the ancient law has since been changed, although these days it's quite a quaint tourist spot. Just a couple of miles north from there is Lockerbie. Now that small town gained international infamy when a Pan Am jumbo jet crashed into it after being blown up by terrorists. Between Gretna and Lockerbie, though, is a small town, village, tiny place, hardly features on any map. In fact, I'm not sure there's really much there at all these days. If I say the name, though, most railway people will know instantly all about it and where it is. Quintin's Hill. Now, Quintin's Hill is really just a place where trains can pass. It's walking distance from Gretna, but there really isn't much to see there, not at all, other than the site of the worst ever train accident in Britain. The track layout is much the same 100 years later, but nothing is left of the signal box that was once there. This signal box was where it all went wrong, and even though the train line is still in heavy use today, the signal box is long gone. Signals, like some on the model railway, were in use at the time. I first became aware of this location as a boy when a seemingly minor accident there made the news. In the winter of 1973, a freight train passed a signal, just like one of these, and ran into the back of another train, and the other train was waiting for another signal at danger just up ahead. While any accident on the railway is serious, this one only injured the guard on the stationary train. I think you Americans call a guard a conductor, isn't that right? But this relatively minor accident made big news because of the location, Quintus Hill. It's the site of a much more famous accident that happened long before, exactly the same spot. One early Saturday morning in 1915, a troop train carrying soldiers from Scotland on the way to the front line of the First World War was given a clear road signal, and so off it went, soon gaining speed on its journey south. However, another train had been parked ahead to let an express train come the other way. The troop train ploughed straight into the back of the parked train, and it was a big mess. Many of the hurt soldiers were spilled out onto the track amidst the wreckage and the crumpled cars. Not a minute or two later, the express train arrived, right on time, and ran right into the wreckage of the first two trains. Now 3 trains were a big pile of wreckage. Being 1915, most trains were still made of wood and lit by gas lamps. The locomotives were powered by steam with a huge coal fire to heat the water. It didn't take long before the whole scene was on fire. The blaze would last for a whole day before it would be put out. Quintus Hill is remembered today for the tragic accident where well over 200 people died. So what went wrong? How could such a terrible accident happen right in front of the very signal box that controlled that stretch of line? The accident report is what I was sitting on the floor reading today. The later accident was simple enough. The driver just didn't stop at a danger signal. But the earlier, bigger accident was a combination of errors that boiled down to the signalman, the person who should have been looking out for the safety of the train and protecting it, completely forgetting it was sitting right there in front of him. Making this even harder to understand, the signalman had arrived to work not just a few minutes earlier on that very train, and the train had stopped right at his signal box to let him off. Human error, right? You have to be able to trust someone who is there to protect you, don't you? Sadly, sometimes these are exactly the people who let you down. People, of course, do make mistakes, and the consequences of any mistake can be very serious indeed, can't they? The accident in 1915 was caused by the signalman making a seemingly stupid mistake. But much more often, problems are caused by those danger signals that get passed, even though we know we shouldn't do that. The later accident that caught my attention as a child could certainly have been much worse. In life, of course, there are rarely great big lumps of wood or bright red lights to stop us doing silly things. But still, when we're paying attention, God puts people in our path to remind us to keep our eyes on Him. Situations and events where we don't know the way ahead are all overseen by God, a very good, attentive signaller. The Lord Himself watches over you. The Lord stands beside you as your protective shade. The Lord keeps watch over you as you come and go, both now and forever. Our paths through life are indeed fraught with danger, aren't they? What a comfort to know that God is there to guide and protect, whether we are parked, waiting for a way ahead, or speeding along our way. One of these days I'll get the signals to work properly on the model railway, and then we'll be able to see the trains obey the signals. Sometimes I just like to sit and watch the trains go by. Even in the model world, mistakes can get rather costly when the trains crash though. Until next time, goodbye.